Hey, welcome, everybody to Workshop. Unfortunately, John, who was going to feature for us today, has come down ill and can't show up, so I'm going to pinch it for him, and that's what's going on. If you're here early, or you're coming in after the fact and you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to push it forward 5 or so minutes, and then you can get to that first story. All right, so I'll throw it to Shweta. Unmute yourself, and then you can introduce the show.
Hello, everyone. Today is our show. And we like to start every show with a little bit of an icebreaker. So we get to know each other, you get to know us. And our question for today is, what is the earliest art project you can remember? So I'll send it over to Susan.
Susan, you got to unmute yourself.
The earliest art project I can remember, my mother still has it. I think I was in kindergarten making a clay Suki. We had 3 black poodles, not at the same time. Each one died, and we got another one named Suki. And so this would have been our first, I believe, or second Suki. And my mother's kept it all these years, and it is a really poor rendition of Suki. And I should ask her someday why she's keeping this thing. That's the first one I remember.
Love it. Margaret?
Okay, so I actually read the email this time and saw the question. So I was able to do a little show and tell. This guy.
Oh my goodness, you have it.
My initials on the bottom, MD.
That is fantastic.
I think
it's a sea lion.
I knew you'd say that. It's actually our dog. It's from kindergarten as well, and I think it's got kind of a pre-Columbian feel to it. Here, wait, I can't.
Yeah, definitely.
It's got kind of a thrust. But my real first art project that I really remember is even more horrifying, and it. So I used to have long hair, like long, way down. And the person who looked after it, my grandmother, died, of course, suddenly. So my mother decided to chop it all off. And so the day we chopped it all off was a Saturday because she worked all week. And I was allowed to keep it as a little keepsake and plaything. So I brought it over to this kid, Pete's house. And he had a big apple tree. And it was summer. And all the apples were lying on the ground. And they were all rotten and smelly and delicious smelling. And so we decided to use my human hair and make little dolls out of this rotten apples and human hair. And we plunged sticks to the apples for the eyes and fixed the hair with sticks. So I thought it was quite, it looked a little Blair Witch, I'm sure, to the naked eye, but for me it was a labor of love. So that's the first real, and if I smell rotten apples, I'm immediately thrust back to my doll making. So I don't recommend it, but it was a good afternoon.
Wow.
I'll jump in with mine. The first art project that I remember was a cooking project, and it was in kindergarten, and we made donuts, and they were tasty.
Very nice. Yeah, I think my first one that I can remember, I mean, there were a lot of paintings and drawings I did, and I remember the only color that resembled my skin was orange, so there was a lot of orange people in my drawings. But the funniest one is I was in kindergarten. We all had to draw a leopard, and this girl, Erin, her leopard was better than mine, so I stole it. And then I got reprimanded, but at least I had the better leopard.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So
Okay, so we are gonna run through a little rundown of what the show is like and how it's gonna go today. Somebody is texting me that they want to be the feature, and so I'm gonna stall for them for a little bit. We are going to do, because of that, we're going to do the lesson at the top. It's a very quick one. We are going to do somebody's story. We will workshop it. Then we will do somebody else's story. And we can jump back to the other one, if that makes sense. What are we... and then at the end of our show, those of you who are plausibly new, what we do is we have someone who didn't tell a story tell one of the stories that they heard as though they themselves had lived it. And that encapsulates and shows the power of voice and how much can change. You keep the plot the same, change the voice, and it makes a big difference. Hey, Sonic, good to see you.
I think we did forget to mention something.
Oh, yes. What did we forget to mention? Who's on top of it?
Did we forget to mention that we're all friends here?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
We did. Oh my gosh. Well, despite the fact that we keep getting new panels from my first start of the show, we are still all friends. So Margaret, Shweta, and Danny and I are friends. And so even our feature storyteller is our friend, at least for the day. And so if we do any critiques or if we ask them to change the story, they own the story, so they do understand that they don't have to do any of it. But also they understand that this is all just a bunch of fun playtime and that we are all friends and we just need to have fun and play with these stories. And nothing is personal. It's all about the story. And all these people here are wonderful. So just remember that.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. Hey, good to see you, NLSC6. It has been a while. So, yeah, this person is negotiating with me. So, I am going to see if Shweta wants to do the introductions for each of us.
The introductions.
Yeah. So I should have gotten you on the phone and we should run through this. That's fine. Okay. So, Shweta tonight is my co-host and she'll be jumping on top and giving hardcore critiques. She loves story. She works a storytelling class that she's doing. Are you in it right now, or can people sign up for that?
They will be able to sign up for it in a couple weeks.
Okay. We'll have links to that on the Story Luck page. And
but any story speaking, just any sort of trying things out when it comes to story, when it comes to you, when it comes to your voice, I'm always available for that. And that's, you can find on my website.
Okay. Do you want to name it?
And my website, I will spell it because it is not very phonetic. It is my first name, SHWETABHATT.com.
Okay. Very awesome. And then we have Susan, who is going to tell a story tonight. And she is our resident newbie, though you could barely call her that after working with us for several months. And finally, we have Margaret, who's in for Noah, who's had a horrible run-in with COVID and his plans for vacationing in Switzerland have been destroyed. But luckily, she's here with us, even though she's gotten hit with, you've got to name it, the norovirus.
The cruise ship disease.
the
Without the buffet and without the disco.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So that is what's going on. Where what is the next piece of this puzzle while this person keeps thinking about it? Okay.
We have a lesson.
Yeah, I have a lesson. Thank you. I do. I am going to change my mind, though. We're going to have a quick show tonight. I'm going to bomb out the lesson. I will do the feature story. This is a thing that I've been working on. I've been working on a lot with Margaret off the scenes. And so hopefully afterwards she can be like,
nope.
This is I told you last time it was perfect. Don't fuck with it. All right. Setting up the clock. Also turning on a light. Slightly better. Okay. All right. Goodness freaking gracious. All right. And Shweta, you've got to just help me out with this story. Okay. Here we go. So, where are we? Oh, yeah. Okay. This is how it starts. I am in 5th grade, and I'm very excited to be in 5th grade. I am ecstatic until I walk in to the room of 5th period, 5th grade, and I see that all the desks have been rearranged by Mrs. Pratchett into pods, and then just like anarchy cookbook wedding style, she has tossed name tags haphazardly everywhere. The desk situation makes no sense. They are horribly arranged for dynamics of who should be with who, and I do not trust any of these kids. Why can't I choose where I sit? And so I'm desperately trying to find my name tag, and I can't do it, and I can't do it. And when I do, I see all my friends are sitting down at a table. They've swapped them out, so they're all sitting together, and it's 4 of them, and I'm stuck by myself. This is BS. And then Katie Shum comes, and she sits down next to me. And that's okay, because in 3rd grade, there was a rumor that Katie Shum had a crush on me. And then Andy Reamer comes down, and he sits down right in front of me. And that's pretty cool because we were in the apocalypse now. We were in the shit that was 3rd grade Cub Scouts running around, capture the flag in the middle of the night. We've got some sort of bond. I mean, he's a class clown. He's a cool kid, but we know each other. This could be banter central. This is going to be okay. And then kitty corner, Tiffany Lacer picks up her thing. And the thing is, in 5th grade, they decided to have sex ed. The state of Ohio came together and they were like, you know what? Dan Boyd has figured out that his crushes aren't quite platonic and that he's thinking about dating. So we're going to give him sexual education. And what they did in my school was they split us up because why would the girls and the boys want to talk to each other about sex? And then they had us watch separate but equal videos, which were in no way equal. The boys watched a video that was about 2 things: premature ejaculation and nocturnal emissions, both of which I don't think exist because I've never had them happen or met anyone who admits to having them happen. The girls, I don't know what they watched, but when they came out of it, they looked at me in like complete dread, like I was some kind of monster. They gave us both handout sheets The boys got one with a stick figure of a man with a penis drawn on. And the girls got one with a stick figure and a vagina, but no boobs. After that, when they brought us all back together, they brought in the Catholic priest to give us a talk because we were in a parochial school. And he explained to us that masturbation was a mortal sin and that any of us who had done this are going straight to hell, no stopping, at go, boom, for the rest of your eternity, which is a very long time in Catholic years. And so we are, and I am trying to figure out how this is possible, because if I'm going to hell for this thing, you definitely should have told me way before today. He sees the shock and horror in our eyes. And he says, well, you know, if it's habitual, then it's probably just a venial sin. And so I'm racking my brain to see if I jerk off enough for it to be habitual or not. And I know a kid who's claiming that he's jerking off 25 times a day. That's the kid I don't want to sit with. I don't want to sit with any of these kids. I don't want to talk to these kids about sex. I don't want to see these kids. And then Tiffany Lacer, the only girl I have a crush on, picks up her thing and she looks at me and she says, Dan, we never have class or group together. This is going to be great. And I say, yeah, except it comes out, and then I sit down and I'm sitting there and I'm trying to keep my cool and say things to Andy Reamer that I think are cool. And he's joking with people and he's laughing at some of my jokes. And Miss Pratchett says, don't be animals. I'll be right back. And she slams the door. And I say, she failed 4th grade biology. Everybody in here is an animal. And Andy Reamer laughs at that joke, which gives the girls the cue that they're allowed to laugh at my jokes. And this is my heaven. Then all of a sudden I hear this little titter laughter all across the room. And Joe Harvey is talking to kids about whether they've had sex or not. Joe Harvey is the coolest kid in our school. Andy asks me, what's everybody laughing at, Boyd? And I don't want to tell him. I'm trying to figure out what I'll do because I don't want to have to answer whether I've had sex or not. I don't want to lie to these people, but I don't want to tell them the truth that I haven't done this thing, that I don't know whether it's good or bad or interesting or whether I should want it or I shouldn't want it. And I don't know. I don't know about whether any of these people have done anything. And I think if he asks me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under the table. I'm going to put my fingers in my ears and I'm going to go, la, 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 la. And it'll be so awkward that it'll just change the subject. And he turns and he says, Harvey, what's everybody laughing about? And he says, Eric over here says that he's had sex once or twice. And then a preppy girl in the back calls out, Eric, if you'd had sex even once, you would definitely know whether you had it twice or not. And everybody starts laughing. And I know that it's over. Andy Reamer looks at me and I'm just going, no, 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 no. And he turns to Katie Shum and he says, so, have you ever had sex? And she says, that's none of your business, Andy. And he writes down, Katie Shum, question mark, question mark, question mark. And then he turns to Tiffany and I say, you don't have to answer that. And he ignores me. Tiffany, have you ever had sex? And I'm about to go under the table when I turn and I see that the girl who picks her nose is already doing that move, and it's not stopping any of this conversation in the room. Tiffany turns. She looks him straight into the eye and she says, "Of course not. I'm in 5th grade." And there's these little moments that you have where there's these near strangers who say things, and it's just that aha moment. It clicks. And I look around that room that I'd been so nervous about, and I realize none of these people have had sex with anybody. I've been in school with these guys for what feels like forever. Nobody would want to have sex with these people. The door slams and the teacher says, "Mr. Boyd, switch seats with Harvey. I thought you would keep Andy under control, but I see you can't be trusted." And that is literally the only thing that I remember about 5th grade. Welcome, Tori.
Thanks. Hi.
So, Dan, we will start with the question. How do you feel about that? Telling.
How do I feel about that telling? I feel like it's getting close. It's getting close. That's how I feel. I think that I want that thing about it was 9 minutes for those who care. I want what I said was the theme pretty dramatically, pretty concretely. I want that. I feel like it comes as a surprise. I don't want it to be a surprise. And so I need to figure out ways to seed it. And then I've messed around with the chronology, and I just need to figure out the transition into the nervousness about sex ed. And I need to cut the sex ed jokes down to their essential pieces. That's how I feel after that telling.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you the question, what do you want to resonate from that story? Like, what in one sentence, what do you want to resonate with the audience when they're listening to that story? It doesn't have to be about sex ed at all.
What? Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll throw that back at you because I feel like I said it. But what do you think? You having listened to it?
Well, what I heard is that, you're nervous. You're worried that you're going to be judged for something that you didn't even know that you didn't even know what it was. You feel kind of ambushed. You just want to feel like you belong, but you know that in this arena of life, you have no experience, and that's it. That's the whole thing. I mean, there are seeds of you being like, I just want to belong. I just want to belong. And answering this question will make me not belong. So that's what I heard.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what you...
No, so what I was trying to get at when I said the main theme is that idea of there are strangers who touch your life. And that's why I was saying that needs to be seeded more deeply rather than just be a surprise. This is the theme concrete statement.
I didn't get that.
Right.
I didn't get that.
Either, and I've heard it 3 times. Who are the strangers? Who are the strangers?
What do you
Tiffany.
mean?
Tiffany is the person that touched his life.
Right, but that I definitely know from context. But she didn't seem like a stranger in your story. She seemed like your true love. So that
Yeah.
bars her from being a stranger. You know what I mean? She's super special in the story. She's super special to you, and hence you would never call her a stranger, even though you've never been to her house and you don't know what her parents look like. To you, she was not a stranger. That's my point. So that final line, I don't even know if it's that important. You know what I mean? I agree.
Yeah, I gotta fix it.
Yeah, you got to fix that because the stranger, we're all wondering who's the stranger. You know what I mean?
And there's about like 7 minutes of like sex ed and inner monologue around that happens. I don't hear the stranger part. Something that there were also a lot of names in your story.
That's your signature though, right? The names.
Names are, I want Tiffany's name in there. It may serve as powerful if you only use Tiffany's name and refer to everybody else as boy or girl across the room at my desk. Thought this will maybe just make that kind of hit home a little bit better. But Tori, did you get to hear the whole story?
I did not.
Okay.
Somebody was confused about the age of 5th grade. It's like 10 or 11 years old.
It's 11, yeah.
I like that there was more details this time, but even before, it was still literally the only thing you remember about 5th grade. Yeah, that is.
Can I make a couple of quick points?
That is in. Yep.
Yeah. As I said, I've heard this story as well. Just as far as the front goes, like you are the 5th grade kid and you're portraying the hysteria that is being in the 5th grade and having your seating wrecked up. I mean, that's a real deal. That's a real trauma. But you have to remember that despite your portraying that hysteria, you the adults still have to have control of the way we're perceiving it. And I can't see you sitting down. I can't see the danger of it all as clearly as maybe the last time you told it. And going on with the sex ed part, you told 2 stories, one about the films and one about the stick figures. Maybe you only need one of those because, like, I know that you relish talking about the stick figures and the boob-free stick figure. I mean, that hits funny. It really does. But I'm still thinking about the nocturnal emissions. You know what I mean? Like, I think you could use one or the other of those. And and it would make it leaner, and it might make it more. I think the stick figures are for me, they hit more. And then when you say this is a minor thing, but they say then they brought in the Catholic priest. Well, you don't have to say Catholic priest, just say priest. And then you could say, because this was Catholic school. You know what I mean? Because Catholic schools got better rhythm than the Catholic priest. You know what I'm saying? Then they brought in the priest because this was Catholic school. That's more of a surprise element if you just keep it lean like that. No 5th grade kid is going to say, and then they brought in the Catholic priest. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I would lean that up as well. And what the other thing with the priest is we got a strong feeling of the habitual being a venial sin. But this time you didn't hit the mortal as much. And in the previous time you told that it was like you were deciding whether you were habitual or what was the ramped up one besides above habitual that makes it mortal. Do you remember?
No. If you do it less, it's mortal.
Oh, if you do it less, that's hilarious because you got a monkey on your back with the other one. Right. Okay, that wasn't clear this time.
Yeah. I gotta clear that up.
You got to clear that up. And I think that as far as the rhythm of the actual telling goes, and you like taking the reins of control a little bit more of your, I'm going to call it 5th grade hysteria. I think that if you use it's like in a piece of music. If you use the name Tiffany Laser just to throw the reins back and just get the sound level lower every time that just like sink into it. You know what I mean? It'll make it sonically, as it were, more varied.
Yeah, some of this is like a lot of this is I've just got to sit down with it and write out the language and there's a lot of it that I need to have very precise language for, even though it needs to sound extemporaneous. And so like the exact way that I describe mortal and venials, I've got to get right.
Gotta
And then
get
the transition into the flashback, I've got to have perfect.
And, there's-
And then
yeah,
cutting it down.
I also think though, there might be some merit in the fact that you're telling this in present day 5th grade Dan Boyd. Were you using those words back then?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it may be at 10 years old, using 10-year-old vocabulary to really explain things keeps people there, keeps the audience there, versus using bigger words or
Like,
words that.
yeah.
Do you want to name the specific ones that you're worried about?
You made a comment. I'm sorry. When you were saying, and they thought that Dan Boyd was ready to, it was like right after that. But I just, more than pinpointing, I just want to say as a added effect, it may help to just stay cognizant of that when you're reworking it. You know, like, am I in 5th grade mode? Like, am I thinking 5th grade? Am I 10 years old? Is this a word I would use as a 10-year-old? It makes the present day, like if you're referring back to it, using bigger words are fine because you're Dan today referring back. But when you're Dan at 10, how does it feel? Like, how did you actually sound?
Yeah, that's how I sounded. So that is a note I get a lot, that just people are like, 10-year-olds don't sound. I think people don't hang out enough with 11-year-olds.
Well, just to say, not only did Danny sound like that at 10, so did his brother DJ sound like that at 10, and people would go around saying, would you just sit home and read the dictionary? What's wrong with you? So and think,
Yeah, I believe he
just
sounded like that. Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's a personality thing that you add then in the story. Like, it could be something where you feel super unprepared and unadvanced in this one area of your life, but you're also using these big words and you do feel advanced in another part of your life. There is a little bit of a dichotomy that you can create here as well. But then again, it's what do you want to resonate? Do you want to resonate that you were scared that you were about to put yourself in a situation where you couldn't really understand what was going on? Or do you want the fact that a stranger changed your life or really made an impact on you resonate? Because that's then how much you build yourself up versus build the actual scene up.
Right. Yes, I want it to be the stranger situation. So
how do you think, how would you add more stranger? Like, how would you add elements of that in the story?
yeah, that is the question that I think.
It can be said
that I asked at the top. Yeah, Margaret.
5th graders don't perceive strangers if they're in your class. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in class with someone.
Yeah, I feel like we're like getting on the stranger. I feel like.
Can you change the word and use it like?
Yeah, I can change that word, right? But it's like stranger doesn't bother me as a word, but I get it that it, like, you feel like that's too far away, right? But it's people who aren't, you don't know for real. Like, there's a lot of people I feel like that we have in our lives that we don't know them, so we put them on a pedestal.
Sure. Could you say somebody you knew glancingly, or you knew peripherally, or you never really fully knew?
Yeah, I think that there's some way to do it, like, right? Because that's the whole idea. That's the aha moment that comes through this, right? Is that I don't know any of these people, right? I'm sitting around here being like, I think any one of these people could have had sex. That's how unintuitive I am, how unclose I am to any of these people. Like, we're so not in the realm of friends that I think that they could be fifth graders having sex. So they're all strangers to me. And so I think that there's something in that I could like get it in that way is, and I've had versions where I've done a better job of keeping these names straight by tagging them. We're running out of time, but that might be it. I can tag them and offer some ability, some sense of like, somehow that's what I think I got to do, is get it to the point of like, he doesn't know these people. These are all get.
You can start that at the beginning. You can very clearly state that like, I have no clue what all of this inner monologue that you're doing about sex ed, you can take some of that and instead replace it with inner monologue about the people sitting around you. You making assumptions of these people. Oh, Tom so-and-so walks in, you know, broad-shouldered and with like the coolest new Converse, or like whatever. He must be really cool. Like stuff like that, that kind of stuff. You know, sure, there's the sex ed thing, but that right now, 7 minutes of your story is focused on that.
Yeah, I know you keep saying that, but
I'm saying that because that's all I heard for 7 minutes.
All right, but it was. I mean, I had the clock running. It was a 9-minute story.
But what I'm saying is, talk about the people in your class. Talk about the assumptions you're making, so that end point makes sense as to why you're making it.
Yep.
Because otherwise, it's just like, all right, this guy just, you know, okay, cool, that's a nice point. It hits home, but why? Like, why does it go with what was just being said in the entirety of the story?
Yep. 100% agree. Okay. Thank you guys so much. And all right. I think I will what if I were to redo it, maybe I gotta slowly come up with something. Yeah, what do you have some suggestions?
Margaret,
No, you go ahead. No, you go first. Go first.
No, I want you to talk, Margaret. You like raised your hand. Just talk.
Oh, I was just going to say that, I mean, this is a theme that follows people through their lives, and it's most prominent at 5th grade, that we compare our insides to everyone else's outsides. And, you know, that's a classic therapy wonky kind of thing to say. But in 5th grade, you're so in your head, and you're so in your head that you have no idea that everyone else is at least as insecure as you are. And for me, that's the theme of like how one slowly begins to mature. And the most mature person in the story is Tiffany Laser, because she's truthful, and she doesn't care if somebody thinks this or that about her, whether she's had sex. You know what I mean? That for me is like,
somebody just threw that into the chat down here. Another interesting part is the revelatory part of the story is that Tiffany represents both the coolest and the most authentic. So you automatically believe her. That's right? Exactly. These kids who are like, I've had sex, and asking the question, they seem inauthentic. You don't believe them.
Well, even if you do, like, she kind of pulls the reins back on you and reminds you that you're just a nice boy, you know? And that you don't have to pose and pretend you're like a player in 5th grade.
Right.
To me, that's the theme. I don't know. That's what I've always thought the times I've heard it as well, that it's like how painfully, ridiculously, and hysterically insecure we are and that things like changing a seating plan could like throw us into frenzy. You know what I mean? And it still happens as adults. And we still compare ourselves to what we think is cool about someone else. But it's just that Tiffany Laser's like this, savant, this seer. You know what I mean? For me, that's why to my mind, that's why we keep chewing on this fact that she's not a stranger. She's not a stranger to me either at this point. Yeah. I know her.
Right.
Life, but not because of her being strange or not really, like you don't know what her room looks like. That's not important.
Yes.
Right.
This stuff is helpful. Yeah, the video about problems nobody has, the priest with fake mortal sins, which are obviously fake, sex people obviously aren't having. Okay, so heightened anxiety. I'm going to try to get a 6-minute version in. I'm going to try to just do it right off the bat. And I think I'm going to go back to rearrange it to chronological order. And what do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just go real quick. Yeah.
Go for it.
No, go. You had something.
Oh no, my thing was I think the best way to support Margaret's kind of analysis and just that anchoring that she just provided is speak more to the class, to the people in the class than the class itself. Just a thought.
I can't parse it. What is, you gotta help me.
Speak more to the students who are sitting around you than the class that you're taking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. Yeah. No, I heard you say it. That's good. Okay.
And I don't mean like physically speak more to them. I mean in the story.
Speak about them.
Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. I'll try to do that. Let's see. Real fast. Okay. There's the button. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Let me restart my clock. There we go. It's 5th grade, and the state of Ohio has figured out that by 5th grade, precocious Dan Boyds have come to this place where they've concluded that they have real crushes on people. And I had decided over that 4th grade summer that my crush was this super cool girl with big hair and jean jackets that didn't fit her, Tiffany Laser. And so the state had figured this out. I know because they'd come together and decided that my small Catholic grade school needed to have sex education. And they forced them to for like the first time ever. And what the Catholic school decided was that they needed to split the boys and the girls up, because why would they talk to each other about something as combined as sex? And so they split us up. They gave us separate but equal videos. They gave us separate but equal worksheets. They drew a stick figure of a man with a penis on it. And for the girls, a stick figure with a vagina but no boobs. And they said, don't show these to the other person. But of course, we had them slip up, and we giggled and we laughed and we were embarrassed. And I'm thinking about it now for the first time, what this meant. Like in my head, I was like, okay, this crush isn't platonic. It's something else. But I didn't think about it as sex. And now, because we've had this class, I'm like, are these people having sex? And I'm looking at the Andy Reamers and the Greg Krupps and all these people. And I see Joe Harvey, who's the coolest guy, not just in 5th grade, but the entire school. He's like cooler than 8th graders. He must have had sex, right? And I'm trying to navigate in my head whether I've had it or not. Because that's how muddled the teaching was. Was what I was doing, did it count? Did it not count? What I was doing alone in my room, was that sending me to hell? Was it not sending me to hell? And all I knew was that I didn't want to hang out with any of these people ever. And I didn't want to talk to them about sex, and I didn't want to think about them having sex. And so when I walk into 5th period of 5th grade and I see that the desks have been rearranged from the nice rows where I got to sit by myself and leave these people alone and not think about them, into pods of 4 where I was going to have to be facing them and shoulder to shoulder with them, I was not into it. I'm scrambling around to see if I can maybe swap it out. But the only kids that I get even remotely along with have already found theirs and swapped them out. And so they're all sitting in a pod together and I can't fit. And I find my pod in the middle of the room and there's Andy Reamer. And maybe that's okay, because he's kind of a cool kid. And then there's Katie Shum to the left of me. And maybe that's okay. And kitty corner, Tiffany Lacer picks up her little name card and she says, "Boyd, we're never in class together." Yeah, that's crazy. And I sit down. And we start joking about stuff that we don't know anything about. Andy Reamer and I just like tossing verbal jabs and making fun of kids that we also don't know anything about. There are tables that have gotten completely screwed. Harvey isn't with any of his friends. There is a table sitting next to me with all the kids who pick their nose and the girl who picks her nose and eats them. That is a horrible table that this teacher has done a complete disservice to. She leaves the room for a minute and everybody starts laughing, and I know what's going on in their heads, and I don't want it to get around to my table because I know that they're asking, have they had sex? Have you had sex? Have you ever had sex? Because it's been on all our minds and we're all nervous about it. And we don't know what anybody else has done, and we don't know how we're going to answer that question. Andy Reamer picks it up and he says, Katie with the rosy cheeks and long blonde hair. Katie Shum, have you ever had sex? And she says, "It's none of your business," Andy Reamer, through gritted teeth, and her cheeks are so much redder than they were 2 seconds ago. And he writes down, "Katie Shum, question mark, question mark, question mark." And he looks at me and I'm shaking my head no, but then he turns to Tiffany and I don't want him to ask Tiffany, but he doesn't care. And he says, "Tiffany, have you ever had?" I say, "You don't have to answer that question." And I think I'm going to jump under the table and pretend to scream, but the nerdy kids are already doing that and it's not stopping this conversation. Tiffany turns. She looks Andy Reamer straight in the eye and she says, "Of course not. I'm in 5th grade." I realize, of course not. I'm in 5th grade is the absolute right answer. And it's crazy to me that anybody had it. Anybody in 5th grade had that right answer. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much tighter.
7 minutes.
That was 7?
Yeah, that was 7.
Bed mine.
Huh?
I thought it was the best so far. I mean, it was actually pleasant.
Getting closer.
Who, me? You can
No,
say
I'm
it.
getting closer. I'm getting
Oh, no,
closer. I'm
you're
telling you,
getting
this
closer.
is
I
going to
thought
be
you
a good
were
one
talking
someday.
I thought
Someday.
you were talking about my camera. Yeah.
No.
That was the best by a long shot because you brought us in. Like that girl, Katie. I'd never seen her before, ever. Now I see who she is and that she blushed. I mean, that's huge. Those things brought us in. Like that made an impact, you know? That moistened an eye. That was the one. All that stuff with the teacher, not necessary. That was it. I don't know how that turned out to be 7 minutes because it was so much leaner than the other one. Really good.
Yeah. Okay, so Susan, how are you feeling?
Nervous. I cannot, of course, even match that story, but I got a story. So are you ready for it?
Yeah, I think yes, I'm ready for it. I'm gonna say NLS. I agree. I think it's gonna be a tight 6 once it's done. 5-6 minutes. I think I'll get it there. All right. Whenever you're ready, Susan.
Okay, so this is what came into my head scrolling through the internet. So I'm like, the Bible story, Jonah and the whale, it can't possibly be true. I always thought it's a parable to tell the world that God is merciful. Of course, only if people's hearts were truly changed. But I'm starting to wonder if the facts of the story could be true. There is a biblical application that Jesus spoke about Jonah and the whale, giving it one of his justifications to the Pharisees. Jesus said, "For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Many believe that Jesus quoting the story signifies that it was literally true. Here is my down and dirty version of this Bible story. Jonah was supposed to go tell the citizens of Nineveh that God was going to destroy the city because they were behaving wickedly. Jonah decided that he did not want to say yes to this task and took a boat to go to Tarshish. While on the boat, a great storm started brewing, making it seem very likely that the boat would capsize and all the people in the boat would die. Jonah told the crew of the boat that he was the reason that the storm was brewing. To appease God, the crew threw Jonah off the boat. God, seeing his messenger was about to drown, sent a great fish to swallow Jonah. There he remained in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. While in the belly, Jonah prayed to the Lord, telling him of his distress. And as the belly of the great fish was filling up with water and seaweed, Jonah thought, I'm going to change this. I'm going to start praising Yahweh. See if that helps me more. He also vowed to say he would do the original task. Yahweh did hear Jonah, and he spoke to the fish. And the fish went and vomited Jonah onto dry land. So you might think this is just a tall tale about a great fish, and it couldn't possibly be true. But did you know vomiting things out of a whale's stomach onto dry land is actually true? Now, currently there isn't a lot of this stuff washing up on the shores, but occasionally it does. And a recently displaced fisherman from Oda found a chunk of the precious ambergris, which is the polite term for whale vomit, floating in a corpse of a great sperm whale. Inside the whale was a mammoth chunk of ambergris. also sometimes called floating gold or treasure of the sea. A treasure that the fisherman found weighed approximately 280 pounds. The fisherman then sold this for a nice tidy sum of 1.5 million. Ambergris is very valuable because though it does not smell pleasant in the raw, it is used to make perfumes last longer and is only used for the most expensive scents. And did you know that a person could actually survive inside a whale? Recently, a humpback whale scooped into his mouth Michael Picard, a lobster diver. He was diving off the coast of Provincetown when he suddenly felt pain as if a truck hit him and the world went dark around him. He thought that maybe a shark had him, but he did not feel any teeth. That is when Michael thought, oh my, I'm in the mouth of a whale. His regulator dislodged, but he realized that he needed to grab it and attach it so he could still have air. Michael thought for sure this was how he was going to die, thinking that he could be eaten by the whale, or at least crushed to death. The whale was putting pressure on Michael, and the pain was tremendous. Luckily for Michael, humpback whales' esophaguses are too small to actually swallow a person. The whole crushing Michael lasted about 40 seconds, and the whale went to the surface and spit Michael out. All Michael saw was white water around, and then he saw the tail of the whale go under for another dive. The only whale that can actually swallow a person is the sperm whale, whose esophagus is big enough for a person to slide down. In addition, that is the whale that vomits onto the land. So, maybe Jonah did actually stay in the belly of a great fish for 3 days and 3 nights. Michael made it 40 seconds.
Thank you very much. That's great. Yeah, very good job. That was 5 minutes, 4:50. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. Yeah, so I will give it to my co-host to ask our first question.
So, Susan, during that lovely tell, how did you feel about it?
I didn't even think it was going to go that well. So I felt pretty good about it. There's a couple of places where I was like, oh, I probably, because I wrote it, so I should have noticed that it didn't really flow like some places in the middle. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, it was better than I expected, truly.
For the audience, can you pinpoint that? Do you know the line that you felt like, oh, that didn't flow?
I thought I was hesitating even when I read it. I think it was kind of around explaining the ambergris, and that seemed a little clunky. And yeah. So kind of like I was putting a couple of ideas together as I was explaining the ambergris. I think it was there for sure.
So Susan, I love the way you kind of pace through it. I love how you add, it's almost funny because your voice goes in waves. And then, the whale. So that was very, very nice. I did want to understand, just to confirm, you don't want this to be a personal narrative.
Yeah, no, not really.
And okay, perfect. All stories don't need to be. Can I understand more why this story matters to you?
I mean, it's kind of just a goof that, I was reading about the guy who was in the mouth of the whale. And then I was like, hey, maybe because I always thought Jonah and the whale, I was like, that's a parable. It's not a real story. And then as I started like researching on the internet about, people being inside whales, it turns out that, you kind of can. There's one other guy that was supposedly cut out of a whale. And I just learned about him after I'd written this. So I didn't throw him in because they actually don't know how true that story is. But that was in like, I think he died in 1903. So they actually do know the guy. They just a little iffy and.
No, I love that. I love that inspiration from something. I read that same article today and I sent it to my sister. So I completely know what you're talking about. Because her unrelenting question is always, will you survive whole? Will you go whole into the stomach of a whale?
Yes. And that would be, so you can let her know, that would be the sperm whale that she could go whole into. All the other ones can't actually swallow her.
Because their teeth wouldn't
they
let
don't
you
actually
through?
It's not actually like they crush their things and then they swallow them, and like their throat is too narrow for a person to slash on down. Except for that sperm whale, which actually does vomit things back out.
That is great TED Talk information. I think you work on this, and we that's where we take this.
I love it. No, Margaret.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. I thought you'd taken a break. Just one quick thing. Well, it's not quick. It's never quick with me. So, Susan, I think that sometimes we stumble onto stories and then it was today, right, that you did this work?
Oh, no, this has been, what, 3 days?
Well, 3 full days. I mean, there's little...
Perfect. Of course it was 3 days.
Right.
3 days and 3 nights.
I think that I've got a notebook full of stuff, too, that just sort of, for some reason, draws me in. And then, like, a week later, I find out, oh, this is what was catching me about that. Like, that I do try to find a theme. Like, I'll try to, I'm trying to look for significance in all this stuff. And so what is it that drew you to this particular story besides, the actual science of it? Like, do you have a claustrophobia situation, or do you have a thing where you were a kid and you spent a lot of time taking things literally from the priest, which we've all done? Or do you know what I mean? To me, that's where the actual interest of the story is, why you were drawn to this story. Or whether
I think it's more the opposite, is that I take the Bible more as it's always a parable. It's always a teaching moment. It's never real. And
but then you allowed yourself to wonder whether
hey, this
and I think you
crazy sounding story.
I think you can develop that part of it more, like the perspective of why you're digging into this. You know what I mean?
I agree. I like that, Margaret. I like that point a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'll make it a more compelling listen to us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all love survival stories, but we don't know this Picard guy. We know you. Can you put yourself in that?
Shweta knows him, though.
She knows everyone, apparently.
I'm gonna give myself a nickname right now. I'm a matter miner, so I like to know why things matter to people.
Yeah,
why are you telling me this?
Right.
So that's why whenever I get threads of this matters to me because, without saying this matters to me because, I'm always just a little bit more engaged into the story.
Yeah, I think that's as valid a question as how do you feel about how you told it. I think that what she just said is absolutely, but that's what pulls us in. So you're on the spot now.
What are the stakes for you? Even if the story's not about you, if you just tell us at the top, this is so interesting to me. You know what I mean? That's sort of like one of the big things that you hear if people evaluate teachers. Like, what do you love about this teacher? They're excited about the topic. The topic doesn't have to be about them. They don't make it about them, but we know how excited they are about it. And so if we know, and one of the ways to get there, I think you did a pretty, I'm going to say you did a pretty good job of that. Like, you seemed excited while telling the story. You seemed interested in it, and that helped draw me along. But if you give that what they're asking for, and I think it can be small at the top. Like, this is why this is so interesting to me.
And what was your conclusion from all that? Like, aside from the fact that he made it, like, how did it make you feel? Did you feel like you could survive that too, or did you like, or you're going to stay away from the seaside, or like what are your conclusions like?
Yeah, I do not want to follow Michael Picard into the mouth of a whale. I think, I'm gonna stay far away from.
Avoid it, yeah.
I'm gonna stay far away from that experience.
And
Yeah.
you know, another cool way, like just another idea that maybe we all know that the belly of a whale is a metaphor of sorts. Is there a time that you felt you were in a belly of a whale? You know, and it's like, I don't actually have to be swallowed by a sperm whale to feel this feeling. I've been there before. You know, that is an invitation for you to incorporate something more personal if you so choose.
Agreed.
I liked the crowd work that you did. You started off like, this is a story that came about because I was reading the internet. I find stuff like that super draws me in, to just start off colloquially. You're just talking to us. You're telling us about how things came about. That was the one I wrote down, but there were a couple times in between that there were some lines where you were sort of addressing us as listeners, and I liked those things. Question to Margaret.
Yeah.
Does it bother you at all that this seems very non-secular, or did it seem secular to you?
I mean, it seemed pretty secular. Yeah. I mean, because we're all coming in from the assumption that nobody takes that stuff literally. Yeah. No, that didn't bother me at all. No. Was it? Why would you think it bothers me? More to the point.
I was gonna ask the whole panel, but Shweta jumped off. I think that talking. Is that something you were at all nervous about, Susan?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't nervous about. Yeah, I think I was more nervous about the story being boring. Yeah, and I think it reads more boring than I thought. I thought it was going to be more boring, and I thought it was better actually saying it than reading it for this time. I don't know what you felt since you've read it a couple times, but
yeah, this seemed revised to me. Am I wrong about that?
No, of course. Every time you send me notes, I revise it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't actually do my real job when
you're at work.
When I'm at work, which might get me in trouble. Especially since I just said that on the
Speaking
internet.
of which, if you still haven't done your taxes, she has a lot of time. She can do your taxes while she's at work. She's very affordable and efficient. Slip into our DMs and we can get you a good deal.
Yeah, that's right. And
Shweta, now that you are back, unmute yourself, and then do you yeah, do you have anything? Did it bother you that there was like a religious bent, or do you have any thoughts on how people should or shouldn't do that? Just knowing that some people in the audience are atheists, or some people are of different
Yeah,
faith.
I think referring or making a reference to a parable, which is a story and not necessarily values or actual script, is fine. I think, stories, I mean, that's how things are shared. I speak as a Hindu who grew up listening to a lot of Hindu fables and parables and things like that. I would make references to them in a way that is separate from religiosity, but still has that very known, familiar kind of tone to it, which I think anybody who was raised in the United States understands that. So I think it's fine. I don't think it's weird at all. And I think the tone that you bring to it as you're telling it also allows it to be a little bit more approachable and it just feels softer than something very kind of, secular.
So did you know the story of Jonah and the
Yes.
whale? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was wondering about that. If there other groups would know it just because you live here.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just
I
one
live
of the
here.
stories that kind of just seeps into the culture.
It's
Exactly.
in cartoons. It's in cartoons. So it's
Yeah, it's right. It's in cartoons. Is there a Hindu story like it?
Yes, there probably is. I cannot think of one off the top of my head, but when I do, I will reach out to you and let you know about it.
Thank you, Shweta.
Level 39, thank you for the follow. And yeah, there is for those of you in chat, there's a follow button right below the screen if you're watching on Twitch, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can hit that subscribe. What do we think Susan should do for an encore?
right now.
Yes.
Is she going to retell the story? Is that the deal?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the usual deal, but
I think that you should. I
could-
think that you should put yourself on a beach somewhere and have the sun beating down on you and think this story as though you're in the whale yourself.
yeah, like
just totally personalize it, like almost hallucinatory.
I think that has merit to it, Margaret. I really like that. Or more just because, Susan, I can just tell that you have an imagination unlike. So even just daydreaming off of the article that you read about Picard, reading it and being like, I wonder if I'd see this in the mouth of a whale and maybe this and probably this. Do you think like my shirt would disintegrate? Something like a little bit of like maybe like some inner monologue. Like, what were your actual thoughts when you were reading this? Like, is this guy for real? Can this actually happen? And then remembering Jonah and the whale and coming. So I think allowing yourself some room to just play in your head and let us hear that. I think that would really kind of give you to the story.
Mm-hmm.
okay.
How do you feel about that suggestion?
I you know what I think I could do is maybe like I started with the Jonah and the whale story, but maybe do it more like how it happened, where I read the story of Michael Picard, and then that got me to think about Jonah and the whale, And then that got me to dig deeper into how many people have actually been swallowed up by a whale and, vomited out of a whale. And I could like do it more like it happened,
Huh.
but I
Yeah.
don't know that I could daydream my way through a whale. That seems a pretty tall order.
Daydreams are bad.
Yeah.
Daydreams are bad.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
it was, I'm not sure I could accomplish
So,
that.
what about this for trying to do a fictional thing? What do you think about coming up with a prayer for being in the belly of a whale?
Yeah, you really want that prayer. Okay. A prayer for being in the belly of the whale. Is that what you want?
Well, you can get
I
pushback.
could probably do that. Could probably do a prayer for being in the belly of a whale. Is that the way you want?
That's what I'm thinking, and then I think that I'm gonna short. Okay, this is my thought. Short vignettes.
Okay. You get. So
I get one. Think about this.
So this is what you get. You get me. All right. So that gets the daydreaming people. You get me in the belly of a whale saying a prayer. Will that do?
That would be fun to play with. What I was going to suggest is just like divorced of story. You come up with what would it be like? You just say, what do I think Jonah's actual prayer was in the belly of the whale? What do I think Michael Picard's prayer was in the belly of the whale?
I mean,
what
Michael
would my prayer
Picard's
be?
videos out there, so
right.
We do know. Like,
hey,
it wasn't
Kay.
much.
Thank you for stopping by. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Kay. Hi.
How
about you get my prayer in the belly of a whale?
Perfect.
All right. Ready?
Round 2.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan, for putting up with us.
Round 2.
I do think your idea is also good of going in order. That'd be interesting. I'm just encouraging
you now got a belly of the whale. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, believe it or not, this is what happened. I was just swimming along in the ocean, minding my own business, and up came a humpback whale and scooped me up. And in this humpback whale, luckily, I couldn't make it all the way to the belly, but I could make it into the mouth of this humpback whale who was deciding that he was going to try to crush me to get into his belly. So I'm here in the humpback whale's mouth, and I don't have a whole lot of time because there's a lot of water sloshing around, and I need air. So I just start praying as hard as I can. Oh my gosh, dear Lord, do not let me die. This is not where I want to die. I don't want to die in the mouth of a humpback whale. And whatever it is, dear Lord, that I need to do to get out of the mouth of a humpback whale, for you, dear Lord, I will do it. And so, Lord, I praise your name. And I know this fish is a great fish, and you're great, and everything's awesome. But please, dear Lord, get me out of the mouth of this humpback whale. And luckily for me, within 40 seconds, the Lord spoke to the humpback whale, and it went to the surface and spit me out. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Susan.
You're welcome.
That was fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the show tonight. I'm going to throw up the Discord into... No, that is the wrong Did I give that twice? I did because I sent the thing. 1 second. I'm going to get the Discord link. I'm going to throw it in there. That's where we're going to hang out for just a little bit after the show. And we're doing daily stuff on everything. Where's my Discord? There it is. We're doing daily essays on Twitter, so check those out. I'm in a new class. We are going to get the link for Shweta's stuff, and we will be posting that on our Facebook page. And no, it did it again. Why is it not copying? Here we go. There's the Discord link. All right. Everybody say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.